All right, Jolene, what you got for us?
Okay, so my gnarliest, craziest stunt I've ever done goes back to Nitro Circus. Actually, I base jumped a motorcycle into the Grand Canyon. So motorcycle off of a ramp into the Grand Canyon, and then base jumped off of it. And I actually did it twice that day. The first time was on the back with Travis driving on a street bike. And then the second time I backflipped my own dirt bike and then base jumped off of it.
My God. Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's The Business Program. I'm Perri Nemiroff, Senior Producer at Collider. And if you're interested in programming like this from the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our panel of Emmy-nominated stunt performers. Hello to you all, and huge congratulations on your nominations and your work in general, which is truly mind-blowing to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I've got a couple of big group questions to start here. You have been warned, so brace yourselves. First, just so we can learn a little bit more about you and your journeys, can each of you share how you first discovered that you wanted to become a stunt performer? And then also what project earned you your SAG card?
Who wants to go?
Who's gonna be the first?
I can start if you want. I originally, my uncle, he was a Universal Studios stuntman, live performer, and then he got a show called Third Watch. So from 13 to 15, I gave up my summers and would take the train out to New York and hang out with him on set for 2 years. And then finally, another stunt coordinator that happened to be working for him asked why I was hanging out on set and asked if I wanted to become a stuntman. So he said, okay, well, you're going to fly out tomorrow after I said yes. And flew me out to New Orleans, and I got my SAG card on a movie called Searching for David's Heart about 17 years ago.
That's cool. That's nice. Well, yeah, let it be me next. So for me, it started all when I was a child. So I used to do like crazy stuff, jumping, like breaking my legs, my feet, my hands, like everything. And it didn't stop me at all. Like I was doing crazy stuff, like fast driving with a bicycle, like carrying on, holding after the car, like 100 kilometers per hour. Like just imagine when you were as a kid. So yeah, but my first project was I've met our Latvian stuntman, the team called Wanted Stunt Latvia. Yeah, and on it was on like small short film project, and so they're really cool guys, and they offered me one job. So they like called me like few weeks later and like, Yuri, we need to crash a car. And all I asked, like, when? That's it. That's when. That's all. That's all the info I needed. Because like, so for me, it's like not only a job, it's like a life. You know, I think you understand. Like all the other time, you just exist, but you truly live when you do something like this. So yeah.
I agree with all of that. I come from the action sports industry. I started racing motocross when I was a young girl. My dad taught me to ride when I was 10. And so I raced women's pro racing for many years. And then I met an action sports legend who is now very well known, Travis Pastrana, who was creating a group called Nitro Circus. And it's basically an action sports group of people that all have the same passion to do what they love, but all coming from different parts of action sports. And the group went on to have a very successful time. And so I became the first female to backflip a motorcycle and was sort of initiated into that group through doing so. And I traveled the world for 12 years with Nitro Circus, doing stunts all over the world, jumping freestyle motocross and doing BMX, and even the contraptions part of Nitro Circus, which is sort of our entertaining, clownish sort of part. So I was doing stunts in a whole different area of stunts, but I never considered myself an actual stunt woman. I still always just considered myself an action sports athlete. But I had wanted to be a stunt woman since I was a teenager. And basically, I just wanted to find any type of way, be it a stunt woman, be it riding motocross or whatever. I just wanted to find a way to make a living on two wheels because that's what I love the most. And so pro racing gave that to me into my 20s, and then Nitro Circus gave that to me through into my 30s. And then in 2011, I got this really interesting email that I thought was a joke, but basically it said, and I was on tour in Australia at the time with Nitro Circus, and it said, would you be interested in doubling Anne Hathaway as Catwoman in Christopher Nolan's new movie of the Batman trilogy, Dark Knight Rises? And I was like, this is a joke. Like, how does somebody get this type of a message? So I wrote them back. It was a big name in the industry. It was Terry Jackson, who most people do know. And he became a huge mentor for me. But I wrote him back and I said, if this is not a joke, my answer is absolutely yes. And so the coordinator gave me a call. It was Tom Struthers. And he said, hey, mate, do you think you can ride this motorcycle? And it was the Bat Pod in Dark Knight Rises. And my answer was absolutely yes. You give me the opportunity to ride this bike and I will ride the crap out of it, because they thought that there wasn't a female out there that was capable of doing it. So that's why I sort of got the call, was people had seen my work through Nitro Circus, all the different things I'd done on motorcycles and all the other stunts that we had done through cars and BMX and skydiving and sort of the whole realm of stunt work that we do in Nitro Circus. And I flew to England. I had 2 days to get a grasp on the bike. And within, a few hours, I was ripping around the track with the Batman double on the other pod. And that was it. I was hired, and I had this amazing experience of 4 months on Dark Knight Rises, doubling Anne. And it was the greatest experience of my life. And I knew right then and there that that was exactly where I was going to go when I was sort of done with my world in Nitro Circus. And here we are now. I left Nitro Circus 6 years ago and have dove full speed into stunts full time. So I've been with SAG for 10 years now and full-time stunts for 6.
I don't think you could have started in film with a bigger production than that. That is something else.
Thank you.
And as far as I go, well, I'm third generation. My family has been involved in the stunt world since silent film. My grandfather was Buster Keaton's Sky. My father had quite a legacy himself. And so I've been a member of SAG since 1969. I always kid about the fact that I was born on a set, which is not far from the truth. Born and raised in Hollywood. And I come from a generation that had to have a very general overview of everything, whether it was cars, motorcycles, horses, bikes. And I've been lucky enough to see the progression of how the business has really evolved. And that's been such an exciting thing, and how we've, incorporated computer work into the whole system of things, and making things safer. I came from a generation also that was just, you're going to take some bumps and licks, and was fortunate enough to experience how to do things a little, make things easier on the body. So that's my story.
Vital addition right there. All right, Jamel, you're last up for this one.
Yeah. So I started my journey as a breakdancer acrobat. So yeah, I discovered the stunts 10 years ago, and it was a mixing of parkour, fighting, and many things that I really loved. So I started to training a lot, and now 10 years after that, I worked on Moon Knight and other production. So that's great for a French guy. Yeah, it's pretty good, because you have to get your place here in France, and after try to work abroad. So it's a long way, and I'm really happy to be here with you guys.
You guys have all such different journeys. It's so cool how everyone's path is different. You can come at this industry from any angle, and there's something there for you. I love it. Yeah. I'm not making this any easier on you yet. I have another question for all 5 of you. So I know sometimes it can be difficult to ask questions about the basics of what it means to make a film when you're first starting out, because sometimes it could feel like, you should know that information already. So early on in your careers, on some of your first projects, what's a seemingly silly, basic question you wish you had the nerve to ask sooner about what it means to do stunt work for the camera?
I know mine personally, and it has to do with special effects. I wish I had learned what bombs and what size and those kind of questions before I had been blown up on numerous occasions, then burned on numerous occasions. And, it's just one of those things that that as we've grown and learned and asked questions and have felt more free to ask questions, that we have been able to now sidestep the issues, and it seems that other departments are now working much more in correlation with the stunt departments, which has been really a saving grace to a lot of the new generation stunt folk.
I'll second that for sure. Definitely coming into it when you were setting up car crashes or setting your own seat up and stuff like that, to know like the cages and to how to set your belts and stuff like that. And you're relying on people that you've never met before on a brand new set every time you go to do a car crash. So I definitely second that, of asking more questions to the special effects side.
Well, yeah, I agree with the car crashes. That it's like when you do your first stunt, it's like you don't know like all the things that's like like for example now, yeah. And then you'll be happy to know like before you do some stuff that could be like really harmful for you. But I was really lucky, like everything was super cool, so like no danger for me.
I feel sort of the same way in when my first job being on that massive film and 4 months full time in the core stunt group. Everybody knew that I was new and I was green, and I was coming from an industry that was very similar in the fact that we push limits and we take hits and we do things that have never been done before. But they knew that I was new to the industry, that we were now doing a film and I was on set. And so everyone was really awesome, and they were very willing to answer all of my questions. I felt I didn't have a moment of saying like, well, this is a dumb question, because I'd never done it before. So I had this amazing opportunity to have 4 months to ask all the stupid questions and not feel stupid. So I took full advantage of that. And I'm telling you, like at lunch every day, I would sit down with George Caudle, Jim Wilkie, TJ, Jerry Jackson, and I would literally ask a bazillion questions or just have them tell me stories, because I was like a sponge. I just wanted to take everything I could possibly take from them so that I could grow in the industry in the most professional way possible and go on to my next job and not have to ask questions. But I'm also somebody that comes from action sports, where when we do a stunt, a lot of the times in Nitro Circus, it was a collaboration of all of our talents and all of our abilities and experience to make something happen. So we always had an open conversation and people being able to have input or ask the stupid questions, and nobody ever made them feel stupid. So I kind of have carried that through my career, in the sense that if I want to ask a question, I don't really care if somebody thinks it's dumb. If it's going to be for my safety, I'm going to ask it anyway.
I love it. Jamel, do you want to jump in on that one?
My first job was really big because that was a big French movie, and the 5 episodes. So I was really afraid, and everything was totally new, but everyone was very kind, and that was a really nice experience. And we won the tourists for the foreign movies. What do we call that? Yeah, foreigner movie. So that was a lot of big things, a lot of new stuff, falls and many. So that was great, and I learned a lot, and I still learning. Yeah.
All right, let's get into some specifics now. Noon, I'm coming your way first with this one. You've worked on quite a few MCU projects, and I imagine that they have a pretty good system, a pretty standard process going at this point. But was there anything about the stunts on Hawkeye in particular that posed a unique challenge that you have yet to experience on a previous Marvel project?
Yeah, this is a good question. I did actually experience something where Marvel will come at you with a pretty ironclad idea that they would like to stick to as close as possible, and that would be in the form of an animatic. And so they'll give you a cartoon version of a scene that they really would love to pull off. And so we had it's a oneer. I don't know, a oneer is when we try to make a seamless shot that lasts quite a long time happen. And this was in a car chase. And so this animatic that they had given to Heidi Moneymaker was the stunt coordinator, and as well as myself on this show. But in this particular case, they had given us this animatic that involved a lot of moving parts. And it had the two leads that are going to be, in the shot, and they want this camera to be revolving in the entire shot. And it's about a 2-minute piece just for that segment that we're following the bouncing ball the entire time you're with the actors, and the actions all has to coincide with the action, with its car chase. And so we had spoken about this, and the best way to pull this off is, well, we had to reverse engineer it, so to speak. And so first off, we had to do our version of a pre-visualization of this action. And so we took a car, we rented a space at a drive-in theater that may be big enough to handle the entire chase scene. And we started to put the pieces together, and collectively we figured out where the stitch points could be so that it would continually look like it's all one shot. And we did it very poor man's process. We did it with a stuntman in the car, and he was in the back seat twirling the camera around. And then came the time when we would commit it to film. And we had to work very tightly with the directors and with the cameraman, James Whitaker, who had come up with this brilliant idea. Let's put a slider on the top roof of this car that has a remote head so that can be going on. But meanwhile, as a stunt coordinator, you have to figure out, how are we going to time all these cars that are going to have to hit these positions going down the streets of Atlanta? And so slowly but surely, we broke it down to where we felt it was pretty good, but somebody needed to call the shots. Somebody needed to call the timing. And so I decided, I come from a car driving background. And so I put myself in a hotspot car where I could call the shots as I was watching the camera in its revolutions inside the car. The car we had mounted on the biscuit rig, which is, how would I describe it? It's like a tub that's got a big engine, and the entire chassis of our car would sit into this biscuit rig. So we could have the actors doing all their dialogue, driving the car, looking like they were driving their car. Meanwhile, we had somebody in a pod in the biscuit rig driving the actual car, so that they didn't have to, do all the fancy stuff. And as we started to really fine tune this thing, and luckily we had 7 takes, it became apparent that we knocked it out of the park, where I was able to call the bumps, the slides, the side swipes, the 180s, the time that the back of the truck that was loaded with, guys shooting at our heroes. And yeah, I would say that painstakingly, it was a process. It was a really challenging process that I had never, it was a first of its kind. And I think that, Marvel ended up being quite happy with the end product.
They should be. That sequence is incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun, and it was a collective. It's not just the stunts, it's the camera department, it's the grips, it's the second unit director that gave us the time to figure things out. So many things involved in it to make it the sequence, and very game actors. Actors that were willing to sit outside the car while we're doing crazy head-on movements. It was fun. It was really fun.
It's something else. So from one Marvel stunt performer to another, now for you, Jamel, you're coming at it from a different perspective, where Moon Knight marks your very first go around working with Marvel. So now, having gone through that experience, what advice would you give to another stunt performer who's maybe about to jump into their own very first massive MCU project?
Prepare yourself for a long period, because in France we work like 2 months, 2 weeks or something like that. It's not like a very long contract, and it was like 8 months. So it's totally different. You have to take care about yourself, and that's the most important thing.
That is key. All right, Chad, you are up now. So you've been working on the Blacklist for a good while at this point. So what is something about the process of making that show that has stayed consistent since day one, since your very first episode working on it? And then also, what is something about the episode that you're nominated for where you needed to see the evolution of your process for approaching a stunt?
Consistency, it kind of changed up a little bit. We had some changes in not necessarily producers, but we changed with some characters, and then we changed with some writers. So it kind of shifted things a little bit. And as you know, COVID really put a hindering on things. It definitely cut back the hours, which was kind of nice. And, now that they're well developed into further seasons, and they got approved for season 10, they kind of keep it to where we're not. When we first started, it was working a lot of nights. And now they're more of, they like to do 1 or 2 splits instead of working all nights where we originally started. Other than that, the effects team has been the same. They've been great. They're awesome. We hang out. Devin's been awesome. He always builds my cages when we're setting up the crashes, the shootouts, and everything. So we always get along great. I do a lot of cover coordinating on it as well, and coordinating when the other coordinators, fortunately, the past 3 or 4 years has gotten episodes to direct and stuff like that. As for the episode that I was nominated for, it was kind of a whirlwind. I was actually working in North Carolina on a show. And I had a couple days that opened up where I got offered the car crash, and I was coordinating a show down in Wilmington, and it worked out perfect for the days that I was available to go down there. I flew down there, approved my cage, approved where my seat was, made sure I could reach the pedals, set up everything in there, flew in the night before, did my finishing touches to put my belts in to make sure I was happy with where the seat was, because I used a wingback seat this time to try to minimize head movement. But it was nice because the car crash that we did was actually a second unit. So it was all based on stunts. So before we actually did the car crash, we had nothing but stunts, close calls, crosses through intersections before we even got into the stunt. And then, like always, and they know as well, they like to save the biggest part for last when everybody's kind of worn out and pushed our luck throughout the day. And then we went for it and nailed it. It could have gone a little differently. But other than that, I think it turned out great.
Wait, now I have to follow up. What do you mean by it could have gone a little differently?
In my eyes, I feel like I could have gone a little bit faster. And I wanted it to hook the back of the car and spin around, where it just kind of buried into the back of the car, and just the car that I made impact with basically took all the force out of the car, and it just crushed in. So I wanted it to swivel around, but it just dove in and just caved the whole back of the car in, all the way up to the driver's seat.
As a perfectionist and someone who's really hard on her work, I understand that, but you're Emmy nominated for how it turned out. So I hope you were very proud of the end product.
For sure. I'm definitely, right when it first happens, you kind of beat yourself up a little bit on little things that you critique. I'm sure everybody feels the same way when they do something big. They look back at it right away and be like, oh, I could have done this, or, oh, I could have done that. But no, the end product turned out awesome.
All right, Jolene, you are up next. So in addition to stunt work on Barry, you're also getting the opportunity to play a character in the show. Is an opportunity like that unusual where you get the chance to do both?
For me, yes, that was the first sort of big role that I had lines and I had to act and I had to dialogue with an actual actor. So that actually made me the most nervous, was memorizing lines and then having them to deliver them properly to an actual person that knows what he's doing when it comes to the whole acting game. So that made me fairly nervous. I got to dialogue with Stephen Root, act alongside Bill Hader, and get directed by Bill Hader as well in not only my performance of being Tracy Taylor as a whole, so with my acting performance and as well the stunts.
You nail it. The tone of that show is so specific. So the delivery of those lines have to be pitch perfect and you crush it.
Thank you.
All right, Yuri. So for you, I mean, first off, Dear Billy is one of my favorite Stranger Things episodes of all time. Your work in that and everybody else's work in that is especially incredible. For that fight scene, does doing an elaborate hand-to-hand fight scene like that, does it change when you're doing something like that in such close quarters? What does the shed setting do that makes it a more challenging thing to actually walk through compared to if you were working on a more significant set?
Well, yeah, at that time in the shed, so the shed was pretty small and there was a lot of sharp stuff like hammers, like axes, and you have to just to check all the things, so like the actor like won't get hurt, so yourself won't get hurt too much. But like, I mean, but basically it's not wasn't so hard. It was more like fun because like for our stunts, like the more dangerous stunt you do, like the better you feel about that. So yeah, when we will, like, I remember the first day. We came there, like we were trying. So Hirokoda showed us like the exact fight, how we should do it. We trained like maybe a few hours, and that's it for us. It was like in our mind, it was totally ready. So we were ready to fight. But then we had to teach both actors, David and the second actor, Sergey, to fight like almost the same way, but actually they did like a huge work. Actually, they're super good, because sometimes on many projects when you are stunt double of some actor, actors not willing to do like a lot of stuff. But in the case with David and Sergey, they was incredibly the job they did like was super good.
I would believe it based on the end product. Actually, following up on that, another big group question for everybody here. What would you all say is the key to a successful collaboration between stunt double and actor? Are there any specific qualities in an actor that you're working with that you value most when you have that kind of on-set relationship?
I can defer to what my father would always tell me is study your actor's movements. And so if you're doubling an older person, you can't be hopping around like a young guy, and characteristics too. And this is something that I try to impart as well to both for myself and for anybody else that is doubling somebody, is you got to look like your actor, move like your actor. It's not all about you. And it's always fun to watch a very stark contrast between, a feeble person and then all of a sudden this person running, fighting, doing whatever. But I think that is really key to a good amalgamation between the stunt person and the actor, and getting input from the actor themselves. What's your motivation, as cliche as that sounds, but yes, if you can get it in your mind, because really as a stuntman, you are an actor. You're just you're there to do the impossible and or the dangerous, and so it's always nice to have your actors' input in terms of what they would do in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. And also, I'll add some one more thing. It's better it helps when you know a background of the actor, so you realize how to act for him as well. So I had like one project as well. It was Norwegian, Hans Peter Moland, the director was, and at that time, yeah, I needed to make like a movement to act like the actor, because he wasn't on that day on the stage, but I had to do a stunt for him, and like I had to act exactly like him. I had to feel like exactly like him, so it will look like natural. So yeah, it helps really.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. With motorcycles, same sort of thing. I like to ask, what's your experience? Have you ridden a bike before? Are you comfortable on them? Do you know the knowledge? Just because in that case, a lot of the time I have to try to have the actress mimic me as much as possible, because the movements on a motorcycle are just sort of set as what they are. So when I'm doing certain stunts or doing certain things on the bike, my body positioning is that for whatever is happening. So when I'm communicating with them, I want to know sort of what their comfortability is and how much knowledge. And then I just run through what a bike, if they have no knowledge, I'll run through all the things that a motorcycle does so that they have that. And then specifically for whatever scene or whatever shot, if they're on a biscuit rig and they need to be shot from head up and, they're seeing their hands or they're seeing that movement, to be able to give them that input as to what they need to do to make the motorcycle, my movements and their movements coincide as much as possible, and where they need to lean and how they need to do those types of things. So that sort of plays a little bit differently. The really cool thing about my part with Barry and getting to be Tracy Taylor was basically it was me. So I got to be myself all the time, just a badass chick on a dirt bike, ripping and doing stunts, and then just kind of digging into my deepest attitude possible when she was, being snarky, delivering her lines. So it was a very fun experience for me.
Chad, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, everybody hit the nail on the head. Every actor is different. Even when you come in, if you're just day playing for doubling an actor, it's different every time. And sometimes you don't get a chance to see how the actors are moving and whatnot. So you just kind of have to wing it sometimes, but you try to get to know them. You try to talk to them. You see how, I like to fall when I'm doing bigger falls on my right side, but you got to do whatever the actor wants to do. So if he's more comfortable falling on his left side, you got to switch it up.
How about for you, Jamel? What was your collaboration with Oscar Isaac on Moon Knight like?
Pretty good. Actually, I was really happy to have time with him to create, because the personage, the character had the two personality. So Mark and Steven, one is a mercenary, so the way he moves is totally different, and one is like a really quiet guy, never fight, never had problems, so really discreet, and so totally different way to move. So we had to collaborate to find a way to walk, for the way to run and everything. So yeah, I think communication is the key. Yeah.
It's such an exciting creative challenge you had on that, playing the two different characters. I did want to go back to something Noon brought up earlier, Jamel, for you. Have you ever worked on a fight sequence that incorporates, I guess it's not such heavy VFX in that particular episode that you're nominated for, but there is a good deal of it. So how does working with VFX make you have to adjust your work on set?
It was really good experience. Totally new, because it was my first time with such big green screen and everything. So yeah, we have to adapt every movement to the SFX guide. So sometimes we create a movement like acrobatics one when I run over the car and start to flip and so on. So it was really complicated to do everything right, because sometimes it's like I jump a little bit high, sometimes a little bit low. So everything was really precise, and that was a really nice process.
It all comes together so wonderfully in the end. I love that episode. All right. I am running out of time with you all, so I want to squeeze in a few more group questions here. First, for each of you, what would you say is the biggest or most complicated stunt that you have done yet that you're especially proud of?
I did one for Blacklist. I think it was season 5 or 6, I was doing a head-on collision with another police car, and we built a pipe ramp into the front of the other police car. So we had 2 moving cars coming at each other, and we had to be precise on our line to send my car up and over the other car. So we designed a pipe ramp with a kicker on the front of it with a Teflon plate on the bottom, so he could drive in and not stick his car into the ground. But that was a fun and wild ride on that one.
I would have to travel back in time to a Paul Hogan movie called Almost an Angel. They let me have a wheelchair to learn how to go downstairs being chased by a policeman. And I was supposed to be paraplegic, so I had no use of my legs. And I had to go down 40 stairs at Dodger Stadium. They were extremely steep. And I really had no opportunity to practice anything more than 25 stairs, which would have been at a mall. And I'd pad up and go flying down some stairs. And of course, the audience was the normal people that were shopping. But 3 months, I nearly made 40 stairs. They had to break it up into 2 segments of 28 stairs a piece, and but that was a lot of crashing, a lot of stair falls to get to the point where I was comfortable going down the stairs, because at the end you're probably doing 20 miles an hour going down these things, and you have to wheelie. The second you dip the nose, you're going off the front, and the chair's coming after you. So I done a lot of crazy ones, but that is in my memory bank for sure.
Who wants to jump in next?
Yeah, okay, let it be me. So for me, probably it wasn't like a big project. It was a commercial, local Latvian coffee commercial, which the guys made for TikTok, surprisingly. And so I had to crash a car at the speed almost 100 kilometers per hour in a tree, in an old, like, huge tree. And the hit was really hot. So like the car was halfly prepared. We used it was without the cage, but we used the special belts. Yeah, but still, like, with that such speed, when you hit a tree, like, it stops just immediately, and you feel with your whole body, like how it's like your inner organs, they're trying to go further, So it's like the hit was really crazy, and it's probably like probably the most craziest stunt I ever did.
Me, it was on Moonlight, a fall from 10 or 11 meters with a pipe just 2 meters down. So I had to fall, touch the pipe, and feeling like in a washing machine and landing on the box. So that was a very nice one.
All right, Jolene, what you got for us?
Okay, so my gnarliest, craziest stunt I've ever done goes back to Nitro Circus. Actually, I base jumped a motorcycle into the Grand Canyon. So motorcycle off of a ramp into the Grand Canyon, and then base jumped off of it. And I actually did it twice that day. The first time was on the back with Travis driving on a street bike. And then the second time I backflipped my own dirt bike and then base jumped off of it.
My God. I'm obviously going to go watch that immediately after we're done recording. I'm going to squeeze in one more group question, because I did really want to make sure we got to this one before we wrapped up. So for any aspiring stunt performers out there, how do you see this sector of the industry evolving for the better right now? What do they have to look forward to that you have all contributed to paving the way towards for them? It's a little bit of a big one.
High dense padding. In my career as a stuntman, was no high dense padding, and the fact that we can pad a lot of things for the action fights and sequences that involve hand to hand and things of this sort, we've come a long way in terms of hiding good pads, and of course the VFX teams have really helped us out in that regards, hiding good wires. Things that save the impacts have come a long way.
Yeah, that's for sure. I was going to say the same thing. There's a whole lot more of a selection of low profile pads, high density foam, like he's talking about, which we've used before earlier when I started, marble stairs where you roll down marble stairs. Now we make marble stairs with, well, depending on the case, you put high density foam and you make it look like marble.
Anyone else want to throw something out there?
Yeah, I just think also like the growth of the industry in the sense that there's more specialties, more people that are geared toward a specific background. Whereas like you were saying before, back in the day, an old school stuntman needed to know a broad spectrum of absolutely everything. And nowadays that's still needed, but on a lower scale, where if there's a one stunt that needs to be done by a fight or a gymnast or a motorcycle specialist or a car specialist, they'll bring that specific person in for that stunt because they have that wealth of knowledge in that specific background. So the industry, I'm still fairly new to the industry opposed to some people on this panel for sure. And, but I've seen that growth even in my career, that it's gone from, having multiple stunt people to perform for one actor instead of just one person. And there's still those one people that do a lot and can do, all projects. But there are a lot more specialties that are being embraced. It's being embraced.
Jurijs, Jamel, how about for you too? Anything you see evolving in the stunt industry that you're excited about?
Yeah, actually, for me, it was quite new because in France we don't have like big budget movies. So, for example, when you get hit by a car, we don't have wires. If you fall in the stairs, there is like no fake stairs or foam or something. So everything is pretty real. So I discovered a new world really with everything in foam, and so I can feel like, okay, I don't need this big pad, so I can put like a low profile one, and so that was, yes. So it's totally different.
Yeah, I'll totally agree with that because we used to sometimes you have to use a big pad, but you cannot hide it under small thin jacket or something. So director really told me, okay, I can see it, let's use some smaller ones. But now with the pads involving, it's much easier to work with when you can do some things that looks like they're marble or some stiff things, yeah, but it's a pad, yeah. So, and you can hit it easily. So this is really helpful for sure.
I could keep you all here all day, but I'm not allowed to. I must let you go. And I need to say, on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, thank you all so much for sharing your experiences, your process, and your craft with our audience. Best of luck to all of you at the Emmys, and congratulations again.